Hello, my name is Laura, and I am so excited to share our Sunday school time together today. I'm in the youth room at church taping this. I still miss all of you, but remember to be patient because we need to be safe by teaching and learning at a distance right now. So I pray that I will be able to see you soon. I continue to think about you, each and every one of you, and hope you are doing well. Today we're going to talk about a story. It's called A New Covenant. Do you know what the word covenant means? Well, it's like a promise or an agreement. Remember a few weeks ago during Sunday school when we talked about how God always keeps God's promises? Well, this is about a brand new promise or an agreement between God and the Israelites. Now, the Israelites are a group of people that lived very far away from here. And God's promise happened a very long time ago, like 2,500 years ago. So God promised to protect the Israelites if they kept God's law and were faithful only to God. So let's start this morning with our Bible verse. And it comes, I have it from your children's Bible, and it comes from the book of Jeremiah. And it's chapter 31 and part of verse 34. And this is what it says. For they shall all know me, from the least important to the most important. All of them shall know me, said God. I will forgive their evil ways. I will not remember their sins anymore. So let's talk about our story today, which has to do with that Bible verse. Our story today is about a guy named Jeremiah. Same guy as in the book of Jeremiah that we just read from the Bible. He is a prophet. And what that means is he was a guy who was chosen by God to speak to the people of Israel and to guide them to be good people and to follow what God wanted them to do. Things like, be good and be honest, be kind, and worship only God. Well, the people weren't doing any of those things, and God was not pleased with them. God gave Jeremiah a message to give to the people. He had the message written on a scroll. So here is kind of what a scroll may have looked like. Of course, it was probably made out of wooden dowels, if you know what that means. But this is probably what it looked like. It would be two rolls or two rolls that would hold paper. And if you unrolled it and unrolled the paper, there would be all kinds of writing on it. And these could be massively long. Mine today isn't very long, but at least gives you the idea of what it is. Okay. So that's our scroll. And so today on the scroll, well, as you can see, we don't use these anymore, right? Nobody has scrolls anymore. We either use a notebook to write something down on, or we probably type things on the computer today. So anyways, Jeremiah asked a man by the name of Baruch to take the scroll to the temple and read it. A temple, if you're wondering what that is, that's a place where people went to worship. It's the same as today when we come here to Ebenezer to worship. It's a building where people went to worship. So Baruch read the message, which basically said that the people had to change their bad ways and that they should tell God they were sorry and that they would change from being bad people. Well, there was a king in this area, and the king found out about the scroll, and he made someone get the scroll and bring it to him. Then I also should tell you that the king did not follow God's ways. So while someone was reading the king what was written on the scroll, the king cut off those parts of the scroll and threw them in a fire until the entire scroll was burned. Well, what do you think God thought about that? Do you think God was happy about that? Well, God came back to Jeremiah again, and he told him to rewrite the entire scroll. Only this time, God made the message even longer. Well, remember the people had made a covenant with God a long time ago to worship and obey God, but they broke that covenant or that promise. So now God wanted them to make a new covenant or a new promise. So remember that God always keeps God's promises. God wanted the people to only worship God, and in turn, God would forgive their sins. So what is the point of our story today, or what is the story trying to teach us? The story is saying that no matter what we do, God always promises to love us, no matter what. That's a pretty strong message, isn't it, from God, that He'll love us no matter what. The next thing we're going to do here today is I have a couple activities for you to do. So the first one is kind of a homework activity. So I'm going to explain it to you, and then you can do this during the week. So we'll see if you can try doing this during the week, okay? So with regard to our story, it's important to know that Jeremiah had a special message to tell the Israelites, and that nothing was going to keep him from listening to God, who wanted him to give these messages to the Israelites. So what can you do to spread the message about God's love? Well, when you are out and about, you could smile at people. That would be a way to share God's love and spread the message of God's love. You could say, God bless you, to people who do things for you, like maybe somebody brings you your food at a restaurant, although we're doing a lot of carry out these days, right, if you do go to a restaurant. Or perhaps your teacher. If your teacher is teaching you something, then you could say, God bless you, when you learn something from your teacher. Or what about even your sister, your brother, your parents, or even the people who take care of you? You could say, God bless you to them as well. So this week, when someone does something for you, say, God bless you, and you will be spreading the message of God. That's pretty simple. So that's your homework assignment for this week. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to make a scroll, just like the one that I have here, that I showed you during the story of Jeremiah. Okay? Only there's two parts of making this scroll, and the first part needs to be done by an adult, and then the second part is done by you. So here I'm going to explain the part for the adult first. So what I originally had here was so here's what you're going to need to make the scroll. I had one long paper towel roll, and I cut it in half. But you'll need either one long paper towel roll, or for the scroll that I had 2 toilet paper rolls. So one long paper towel or 2 toilet paper. The adult will need a scissors and a glue stick, or if you have tape or regular glue, that's fine too. And then for the kids, you're going to need to get crayons or markers or anything that you have at home that you can write on, pencil, pens, whatever you have at home that you can use to write on the scroll. And then lastly, 1 sheet of regular white paper. Okay, so the first step, if you do have one long roll, paper towel roll, you'll have to cut that in half. And I already did that, so I have mine cut in half. Okay. Then the next thing you'll need to do is take your piece of paper. So this is done by the grown-ups, and you'll have to fold it in half on the long way. So I'm going to fold this piece of paper in half the long way, and then you should end up with a crease in the middle of the paper. So then you'll need to take your scissors and cut along that crease. And if you need to pause the video at any point in time so that you can do all of this, go right ahead. All right, so now you have 2 long pieces of paper. So the next step is to just overlap them a little bit, but put a little glue on one of the pieces of paper and glue them together and just slightly overlap them. I'm doing about 3/4 of an inch overlap. So you'll need to take your glue stick and just put a little bit of glue on the one edge of the piece of paper. And overlap them and glue them together. So now what you should have is one very long piece of paper. Okay. So the next step is to take one of your rolls and to put glue around the entire perimeter of the roll. Okay, so I have that done. Now you take your piece of paper, one end of it, and you put the roll in the front, and you're just going to roll it around one time. And again, this is done by the grown-ups until it meets. Okay, so now you have the roll on one end of the paper. Now we're going to do the same thing on the other end. We're going to take the second roll, and we're going to put glue around the entire perimeter of the roll of toilet paper or paper toweling that you've cut in half. You're going to take the other end of the paper and you're going to put the roll in the inside of the paper and start rolling until it meets the paper. And then just make sure the glue sticks. So now you should have a scroll that's opened up. Okay, that's all for part 1, and now it's time for the kids to do the rest of the project. So kids, what you need to do for your part of the project is you get to write something in the inside, or you can make designs or flowers or maybe some snow. We're going to be getting snow, or you can write a little message in here. So I'm going to take, and this is where you take your crayons or your markers or your pens or whatever you have at home. Doesn't matter what it is. It can be anything. And you're going to write something on your scroll. And I'm writing something right now, and then I'll show it to you. Okay, so I'm going to roll it up. And now I'm going to unroll it in front of you. Okay, my scroll says God is love. And you can write anything you want, or you can make any kind of designs that you want in your scroll. But just remember, your scroll is a reminder of what Jeremiah had to do and tell the Israelite people for God as his prophet. Okay? Well, good job. You did a great job on that. And here we have one more activity for you. So you'll need any kind of telephone. Toy phone is just fine. I found a toy room in the Sunday school kitty keep room. I found this phone. Or you could use a real phone, but don't actually call anybody. And we're going to do a pretend thing, a pretend little activity. So you're going to pretend to call a friend or someone from your family, then pretend that you are a prophet, just like Jeremiah, and that you're giving the person you're calling a message from God. So what would you say to them? Well, I have my phone, and I'm going to pick it up, and I'm going to call a friend. So, hello, friend. And here are some of the things you could say. Try to always be a good person, because that is what God wants us to do. Or you could also tell them this. Make sure to listen to the grown-up people that take care of you. Or you could tell them this. Remember that no matter what you do, God always loves you. Goodbye. So you can play pretend phone and pretend that you're Jeremiah the prophet, and you can give messages from God to people, friends, or family that you know. We're starting to come to the end of our Sunday school lesson, and it's time for our highs and lows. So it's time to share your highs and lows this week. So I won't be able to hear you because I'm on the video, but here's what you can do. When I ask you for your lows, think about what your low was for the week. And when I ask you for your highs, you can say what your highs were out loud if you'd like, or you can just think them in your own mind, in your own head, and you don't have to say them out loud. So let's start with your lows. What was your low this week? Well, I'll tell you, my low was knowing that a friend of mine was very, very sick, and I was very worried about my friend. So that was my low. And why don't we share our highs, okay? What was the high for you this week? Well, my high was I was able to talk to my friend that was very sick just yesterday, and my friend is getting better and sounded really, really good on the phone. So I am encouraged that my friend will get better very soon. So that's my high for the week. So we're going to end this Sunday school lesson with a prayer. So it's time to say a prayer, and I'll say a part, and then you can repeat it out loud after me. So let's fold our hands and bow our heads. And like I said, I'll say a part, and then you'll say one after me. God, help me see you in my life this week. Amen. Very good. Well, have a good week, and don't forget to do your homework activity. Bye.